Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 17th monthly web workshop on Fluke Connect. Today's topic is Fluke Connect Best Practices, where I will show you tips and tricks on how to optimize your Fluke Connect experience. My name is Chaun Carda. I am a Tier 3 Technical Support Engineer and the Fluke Lead. So a few housekeeping items before we begin. The session will be recorded. Phones will be muted. Feel free to type questions at any time. Please limit those questions to the topic of the session, and questions will be answered at the end of the presentation. Our agenda, or the purpose of this session, is to show you Fluke Connect Best Practices. I will start by providing you with the high-level overview of Fluke Connect. Then I will discuss asset organization, best practices for naming assets, and explain what the importing feature can do. Next, I will discuss the importance of syncing your data. Then I will show you how to configure the default settings in tools and software. Next, I will cover team management, adding team administrators, etc. Then I will discuss the resources you have available to assist you. And finally, I will answer any questions during the questions and answers section at the end of the presentation. Our first section is a high-level overview of Fluke Connect. I just want to cover a few basic facts about Fluke Connect for anyone that may be new to the software. Fluke Connect works with over 80 different tools in 11 different categories, including digital multimeters, clamp meters, installation testers, vibration meters, scope meters, process meters, insulation testers, infrared cameras, power loggers, and power quality monitors. The easiest way to tell if a tool will work with the Fluke Connect software is if it has the letters FC in the model name. So the 376 FC clamp meter, 1664 FC installation tester, T3000 FC temperature module, all would be Fluke Connect enabled. The only exception is the Fluke suite of thermal image cameras. Most of them do in fact work with Fluke Connect, but do not include the letters FC in the model name. And Fluke is available in 73 different countries. One other important note, the Fluke Connect measurement software is 100% free, so please give it a try if you haven't already. Next up is an overall flow of how the data is stored and moved through the various systems. In step number 1 here, we have a problem. Let's say you have an intermittent blower motor problem with the rooftop HVAC package unit. So in step number 2, you grab your 376 FC clamp meter to help diagnose the issue. And of course, you connect it to the blower motor. In step number 3, the 376 FC communicates the readings to the Fluke Connect mobile app here via a Bluetooth connection. Then in step number 4, the Fluke Connect mobile app will upload the readings to the Fluke Connect cloud where they are permanently stored. Now, if the cell phone is out of range, the data will be stored on the phone until it reconnects to either a cell signal or Wi-Fi. And finally, in step number 5, users can then access their Fluke Connect data in the cloud via any web-enabled device, such as a web browser, the mobile app, or the desktop software. Next, it's important to note that the Fluke Connect software works in 3 different applications. So you've got the Fluke Connect mobile app. This is the key interface for capturing measurements from the tools. Next, we've got the Fluke Connect web app. This is the key interface for creating assets and performing analysis. And finally, we have the Fluke Connect desktop app. And this is the key interface for downloading thermal images and creating thermal image reports, as well as basic acoustic reports. The next thing that is important for you to know is that Fluke Connect software comes in 3 different tiers. This is often one of the more confusing aspects of the Fluke Connect software, so here's a quick overview. The first tier is Fluke Connect Measurements, which is available to all users for free. This tier enables users to capture measurements from their tools and save the data to the cloud, just like I explained in one of the previous slides. The second tier is Fluke Connect Assets, which comes with a 1-year free trial subscription for users and is $250 per license per person after that. This tier includes all of the features available in the free measurements tier, plus asset management, asset health tracking, and work order management. The third tier, or the top tier, is the Fluke Connect Condition Monitoring tier. The first year of the software subscription is included with the purchase of a sensor or hardware, and this tier includes all the features available in both the free measurements tier and the assets tier, plus the hardware and the 1-year subscription. The next section is the Fluke Connect Best Practices, where I will provide you with tips and tricks on optimizing your Fluke Connect experience. So, number 1, use a standardized system for your asset groups. Number 2, use a standardized system for your asset subgroups. Number 3, use a standardized naming convention for your assets. Are you sensing a theme here? Standardized is good, random is bad. Number 4, leverage the best app for the task. So, for example, is it better to create all your asset groups, subgroups, and assets on your mobile device or your computer? Hint, it's much easier on the computer using the web app. Number 5, leverage special features for fastest uptime. If you use the web app, you can also use the asset import feature to create all your asset groups, subgroups, and assets in less than 10 minutes. Number 6, understand the importance of syncing data to ensure data integrity. Number 7, set the default temperature settings for data consistency. Number 8, manage the team to ensure you have a backup administrator and everyone has the right license types. Number 9, use resources to find help, websites, documents, support teams, etc. And step number 10, now you are ready to grab your tools and go. So in our first section, we will discuss a standardized system for naming your asset groups, subgroups, and assets. The first thing you want to do is identify your role to help determine the best asset group system for you. Are you a maintenance manager in a large corporation like Boeing or Amazon, where you oversee multiple plants and production lines? Or are you a sole proprietor, someone who owns his or her own electrical contracting business with multiple companies as your customers? Think about the assets that you are responsible for maintaining and how you might want to organize them. Do you want to group your assets by location? That's a frequently used option. Or would you rather do it by type, with all of your motors in one group and all of your chillers in another? Once you've answered these key questions, you can create an asset group system that works for you and your company. So in the last slide, we talked about defining our role. Are we a maintenance manager in a large corporation or a small business owner running our own company? If it's the former, and say I was a maintenance manager at Boeing, I would probably create asset groups called the Everett plant and the Renton plant, because that is how everyone here in the Puget Sound area refers to them, and that would be the most logical way to name them. However, if I worked at Amazon, they may prefer or refer to their plants by numbers only. So you can see we have plants 1 through 4 in this middle example here, plants 1 through 4. Now, if I own my own electrical company, I would probably want to have asset groups that match the names of my customers so I can keep track of the work I do for each of them separately, as you see here in this example. Once you have your asset groups defined, the asset subgroups generally fall into one of two categories, location or type. And in the location, I've seen names or descriptors used such as north, south, east, and west building, building A, building B, building C, or building 1, building 2, and building 3. Now for asset type, that can be any one of the 22 asset types available in our software: motors, fans, chillers, bus bars, electrical panels, etc. Now, factors to consider when selecting asset subgroups. How do you run your maintenance routes? Do you run them by location? So you go to plant 1 and go through all of plant 1 and run a maintenance route taking readings from all the different types of assets? Or do you do it by type? So you go out and run a maintenance route based on all of the motors. You do motors on Monday and fans on Tuesday. How do you report on the health of your assets, by location or by type? That's another factor that's important to consider. And the third option here, or the third bullet point, is limit the number of asset subgroups for faster in-app performance. So what does that mean? This is a very important note. While you can have as many levels of asset subgroups as you want, and it would be easy to create all those levels using the asset import feature, which we will discuss later, think about how long it will take to refresh the web app to drill down into all those levels each time you want to make a change to an asset or update its health status. Now, you could use a search option if you're only updating one asset, but more than likely you're going to be updating a set of assets after, say, a maintenance run. So the more levels you have, the longer it's going to take to refresh the screen. Uh, so just keep that in mind when you're creating all the different asset subgroups and different levels in your system. The best principle here is to keep it simple and use only as many levels as you absolutely need. So next, we have a large corporation like Boeing here on the left. You can see that this is the Boeing group. And we have the two main plants, the Everett plant and the Renton plant, just like we had earlier, but we now have subgroups visible as well. At the Everett plant, they build the 747, 767, and 777 airplanes. Those are the bigger airplanes. At the Renton plant, they build the smaller airplanes, the 737 and the 757. So it's a very logical way to group their assets. Next, we're still looking at a large corporation, but maybe it is Amazon, and they break their asset groups down by plant as well, but here we've got plant 1 through plant 4, which is fine, but you can see how they have a mishmash of different asset subgroups. Plant 2 uses building A and building B, plant 3 uses the north building and the south building, and plant 4 isn't even using location, they're using asset type. So while plant 2 and plant 3 may be okay if they really do use different building names or descriptors, plant 4 is using a totally different system. Again, if this is really how you want to organize your assets, our software is flexible enough to allow that, but I would not recommend it. For the small business, you can see the name of our company, Duncan Electrical Company, and that the company owner has several different companies in the Puget Sound area he calls a customer, including Weyerhaeuser, Microsoft, Facebook, Fargo Manufacturing, and Northwest Timber. So he has those customer names designated as his asset subgroups. So given what we know about standardization, which of these do you think we might want to rename? That's right, the one in the middle, because while the asset groups are consistently named plant 1 through plant 4, the asset subgroups are all over the place, so they should be renamed. The last piece of the standardized naming is in the assets themselves. So take some time to consider what type of naming convention will work best for you. How are you defining your asset subgroups? By location? By type? If you group asset subgroups by location, how will you quickly find all of your motor assets or your fan assets? If you group asset subgroups by type, how will you quickly find all your assets located in plant 1 or the north building? If you decided to use location to sort your asset subgroups, then you will want to be sure to include the asset type in the name of the asset, so you can still easily find all motors or all fans or any one of our 22 different types of assets available. See how in the search bar here, I've selected I want to search all of my assets, and I entered a 3-letter phrase here, MOT, in the search bar, and the results show me 12 different assets are available that include the 3-letter term MOT for the word motor. So you don't even have to use the entire word motor, just maybe a couple of letters from the type of the asset. And this may be somewhat obvious to some, but to others who have a complicated naming scheme, it may not include a description of the asset type. So they lose the ability to search their entire account for a specific asset type. Now, you may be thinking about the filter option, and that does provide you with some help in this area, but you can only use the filter to find certain asset types and those results within a specific asset subgroup. You cannot search your entire account with that. So I could go into, say, plant 1, since this is an asset subgroup, and search all of plant 1 for motor, but I wouldn't be able to see all of the motors for plant 2, plant 3, and plant 4 as well. Now, if you've decided to use type to sort your asset groups, like you see here under the warehouser customer. So warehouser, we've decided that for warehouser, we're going to sort our assets by type. So we've got the motors subgroup and the fans asset subgroup. Then you're going to want to be sure to use an asset location or a shortened code for the asset location in the name of the asset, so that you can still easily find all the assets for a specific location. So see how I've named each of my assets with a location indicator, NB for North Building, so NB, 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 and SB for South Building. So each one of my different assets, the motors here in the motors group, have indicators for where they are located, whether it's the North Building or the South Building. This enables me to sort my assets by type, but also to search and find all assets located in the North Building, as you can see on the next slide. So we're back in the search bar. I've entered in my location code of NB, and now I can find all of the assets available in the North Building. So there's a motor, a fan, a motor, and a motor. And you can see that these are in the different asset subgroups under the warehouser subgroup. So I've got motor, these are in the motors group, motor, motor, and these are in the fans asset subgroup. So one important point here is that maybe you've already started using Fluke Connect, or you've been using it for a few years now and you haven't set this up from the beginning. That's okay. You have the ability to go in and you can rename your assets, rename your asset groups, rename your asset subgroups, and you can also move asset groups and asset subgroups and assets from one group to another. So it's never too late to go in and implement a system of standardized naming, so that you can implement this type of functionality. Please keep that in mind. Okay, after you have decided on your standardized asset naming conventions, the next thing you want to do is create those asset groups, subgroups, and assets. So where should we do that? Which app should we use? I would strongly recommend using the Fluke Connect web app, because sitting down at a desk and using a PC to create all those assets is going to be much easier than using a mobile phone or an iPad. You'll have your notes about your naming conventions right there on your desk as well, so it really is the best and fastest way to create them. I can't tell you how many times I get a call from a technician that is on site pulling their 3540 FC out of the box and asking me how to create an asset while they're out in the middle of an oil field. Can it be done in the mobile app? Sure, it absolutely can. But why not take the time to set it up right while you're in your nice, warm, cozy office? You can see here, this is the Fluke Connect web app. This is where you would go to add asset groups using the little plus sign. And over here, down under the assets area, you click the plus sign here to add assets. Then Once you are on site, whether it's out in an oil field, an elevator shaft, or the factory, that is where you use the Fluke Connect mobile app to capture the readings from your tools. So whether you're using a 376 FC single measurement, you're capturing a 376 FC single measurement, as you can see here. You're using a T3000 FC to record a log file, so recording measurements, temperature measurements over time, or a TI-480 thermal imager to capture thermal images and save them to your account, or any one of the 80 Fluke Connect enabled tools available in 11 different categories. You will use your Fluke Connect mobile app to connect to those 80 different tools and capture measurements to save in your account, where those measurements are stored in the Fluke Connect cloud. So after you've come back to the office and you've taken all of your measurement readings, it's time to sit down and analyze the health of your assets. And the best and easiest place to do that is, again, at your computer using the Fluke Connect web app. Here you can see how to view all the measurement readings taken from various tools and assigned to a single asset. This information is stored under the Asset sub-tab called Save Data. So here we're looking at an asset called Motor. Now this would be bad naming convention. We'd want to include the asset location in here as well. But we've gone to the sub-tab called Save Data, and you can see that for this particular asset, I've taken two different T3000 FC readings. These are date and time stamped. I've also taken a couple of different 376 FC clamp meter readings. All the information that I've ever taken and collected on this particular asset will be stored and visible under the Save Data tab in one location. Here's another option for analyzing the health of your asset, again in the Fluke Connect web app. This information is stored on the Asset tab again, but in the sub-tab called Analysis. And what's great about this sub-tab is that if you take multiple thermal images of an asset, you get all of them in one place where you can scroll through them to review them. You can see here on this chart, right here down at the bottom would be all the different images of this asset, and we can click on each one of these views and toggle through the carousel is what it's called to view a close-up of each one of these thermal images we've taken. And what the software will do is it will also plot a graph of the center point temperature for you, so you can see if that asset is getting hotter over time. And it works the same way with other readings. So you've got multiple readings from your 376 FC clamp meter, and those will also get plotted on a graph, as you see down here. And down here we've got degrees Fahrenheit, so these are temperature readings from my T3000. Now the only caveat is that in order for this tab to work, you need to have more than one reading from a tool. Otherwise, there's not enough data to plot on the graph, right? You won't get a line if you only have a single point. So just keep that in mind. So we've built our assets and our groups and our asset subgroups. We've taken measurements out in the field using the Fluke Connect mobile app, and we've analyzed the data using the Fluke Connect web app, which just leaves us with reports. The best app to use for reporting is the Fluke Connect desktop. It's the most powerful reporting tool we have, and it's the easiest to use as well. And this is what the Fluke Connect desktop reporting options look like. You can see your cover page, you can see examples of pages with data in it. You can rearrange the images in your report over here. You can even rearrange the order of the report. The one caveat is that at this time, the Fluke Connect desktop software only works with thermal images and acoustic images. So for all other types of measurements, you will need to use the asset report or the mobile app report. So far, we've talked about the asset naming conventions and the best apps to use for each type of task. But what if you have a large amount of data that you need to enter into your Fluke Connect account? Say it's hundreds of assets and asset groups and subgroups, and you're dreading that task. You would want a fast and easy way to do that, right? You would not want to have to sit down and manually type in all that information asset by asset. Well, our product team has provided a great feature called the Asset Import option that enables you to import all of your asset groups, subgroups, and assets in a few easy steps. You can click on the Asset Import icon. Once you're on the Asset tab, you go over here. It's the second one from the right. It looks like a little piece of paper with an arrow through it. Once you click on the asset import icon, you'll get a pop-up here. These are all of the instructions that walk you through what you need to do to import your assets, including your asset groups and your asset subgroups. Once you get this pop-up, you'll download the Excel import template, you'll fill it out, and then you'll upload that information into your Fluke Connect account in the cloud. So here's what the Excel default template looks like. So up at the top, you can see the default template. You'll want to leave these column headers alone, asset ID, asset name, asset type, etc., because that information is what tells our software where to put the data. But this is what the example looks like. You can see in this example, the user has 6 different asset group levels, the main asset group and then the subgroups. Now what I've done is I've taken this template and populated it with some of my own personal data. So I would have here for the asset groups, plant 4, plant 5. For the subgroups, I would be using location, so north building, south building, east and west, so on. I've got the asset names, including the asset type information here, so that I can sort by building or location, and I can also sort by type. And then I've identified the asset type, the status, etc. This option using the asset import tool will significantly reduce the amount of time it takes you to set up your data. So in the next section, I want to focus on the importance of syncing your data. So first up, we have the importance of syncing asset information you have built in the Fluke Connect web app. So you've sat down and you've built all of your asset groups and you've added all of your assets. You want to sync this information to the Fluke Connect mobile app. If you don't take the time to log into your Fluke Connect mobile app while you're connected to Wi-Fi or have a good cellular connection, you may not have all the assets downloaded into your mobile app, which will cause you issues when you're on site. Nowadays, this is a rare issue because you can get connected to the internet almost anywhere, but I have worked with people who work out in oil fields or other locations where there is absolutely no reception, and they didn't sync their data to their Fluke Connect mobile app before leaving the office. So they did not have access to the assets they wanted to assign their measurement readings to. Now, they were able to create assets in their Fluke Connect mobile app when they were out in the field, but as you can imagine, once they reconnected to the internet, they ended up with a duplicate set of assets because they'd already built them in the web app, had not synced them to the mobile app, so they built them in the mobile app. And when they connected back to the Fluke Connect cloud, they had a duplicate set of data. So learn from their mistakes and take a few minutes to log into the mobile app while you're connected to the internet and download all that asset information before you leave. Before you leave the office or your internet connection zone. Next up, the importance of syncing the measurements captured in the field to the Fluke Connect cloud before signing out of the Fluke Connect mobile app to prevent data loss. So next to the gigantic red arrow, you see the tiny little number in the yellow box. That is telling us that there's one measurement, in this case it's a thermal image, that has not yet been synced from the Fluke Connect mobile app to the Fluke Connect cloud. If we log out before we let that data sync and that number go to 0 and disappear, that data will be lost. The good news is that you will get a warning in the Fluke Connect mobile app now that says you will lose the data if you log out, but as we know, not everyone pays attention to those warnings. Unfortunately, I've gotten too many support phone calls from customers that have already logged out and lost their data. So please listen when I say you must wait for the data to sync to the Fluke Connect cloud before logging out, or you will lose your data. In general, you'll only see this with the larger files like thermal images. Most often, the other measurements, like from a clamp meter or an installation tester, will sync so fast you don't even see the number before it's gone. You don't even know that this is happening, the syncing process, because it's so fast. But in the case of thermal images, they're bigger files, and the way the process works, you do get this number at the top. So you want to be sure to wait till this number disappears completely before you log out of the mobile app in order to save the data. The last warning regarding syncing data is for the Fluke Connect desktop. This issue usually comes up when we have multiple people working on the same set of thermal images. One person is working in the Fluke Connect desktop, which you see here on the screen, while another is working in the mobile app or the web app and they're looking at the same images, but not seeing the same information because the updates or changes that have been made in the Fluke Connect desktop software have not yet been synced to the Fluke Connect cloud, so they do not yet show up in the mobile or web app. The best thing to do here is to only have one person working with the thermal images at a time. One person can edit the images using the Fluke Connect desktop software, and then the next person that needs to work on the images can wait until the syncing has been completed, say maybe after lunch. So you can see what the syncing status is here next to the giant red arrow. You can see that right now the Fluke Connect desktop software is in the process of syncing files, and you can tell when the last sync was completed based on this date and timestamp. So you want to watch and wait for this little circle and the syncing files message to be completed before you start working on the images in the mobile app or the web app. So your next question is, how long does it take to sync the files? Well, good question. That depends on how many files you've uploaded and edited and how fast your internet is. So the answer is that it depends. It could take 5 minutes to sync your files, or it could take 50 minutes. The best situation is to just wait. If one person's working on editing the files, the thermal images using the desktop, the other people that need to access the files and use them for anything should just wait until the updates have been made and the syncing has been completed. Our next section focuses on setting default temperature settings in all the Fluke Connect apps, mobile, web, and desktop, to ensure data consistency. This is a frequently asked question from customers because they don't realize that they need to set the default temperature in all the apps. Here you can see the settings option for each app, mobile. So this is the setting options for the temperature in the mobile app, the web app, and the desktop app. I'll show you the exact steps on the next slides of how to set up the default temperatures, but at a high level, this is what it looks like. Additionally, you need to be sure to set the default temperature in all the tools as well. Any tool that has a temperature reading, like a thermal imager, the Fluke 279 True RMS thermal multimeter here, or the T3000 FC temperature module here, must have the default set there as well. So remember, there's 80 different Fluke Connect enabled tools, and many of them include a temperature setting, so you'll want to go through each one of those tools and set the default temperature. So setting the default temperature in the mobile app, you'll go to the Fluke Connect mobile app, you'll log into your Fluke Connect account, you'll tap the main menu option, which is this 3 lines here in the upper left-hand corner, which will bring you to this screen, and you'll notice that it ends at reports, so you will need to scroll down in order to see the additional 2 options at the bottom, Resource Center and Settings. So tap Settings in the Fluke Connect mobile app, and in the middle of the page, you'll see the option for temperature unit, where you can select Celsius or Fahrenheit simply by tapping whichever one you want to choose. Next up is the web app. So you'll go to the flukeconnect.com website. You'll log into your Fluke Connect account. You'll click the profile icon, which is right here in the upper right-hand corner. From there, you'll see a pop-up box where you'll select settings. And once you've selected the settings options, you've got one setting to set, which is the temperature unit. You can select Celsius or Fahrenheit. Next up is the desktop app. So here you're going to go to the Fluke Connect desktop app and double click to launch the software. Then you'll log into your Fluke Connect account. You will again click the profile icon, which is in the upper right-hand corner. You'll see a pop-up box. From there, you will select the settings option. And from there, you'll see the temperature unit in the middle of the page where you can choose Fahrenheit or Celsius. Now, you can see it's very simple and straightforward to select these options, but it does need to be done in each app. The good news is that you only need to do this once, and this parameter or setting is saved. So once you set it up, you're all good to go. Next up are the tools. Setting the default temperature will be different for each tool, so I've provided instructions on how to find the directions using the fluke.com website. So you'll go to the fluke.com website. At the very top, there'll be a search bar. You'll enter your tool model. So if you have, say, a 376 clamp meter, you just want to enter just the number 376. Or if you have a 279 FC multimeter, you'll just enter 279. And when you do that and click the magnifying glass or the search button, it will give you a list of different product pages. I usually just select the first one that pops up. And once you are taken to that product page, you'll have a few different tabs there. You'll want to click the resources tab, and from there you'll want to click on the plus icon, the plus icon next to manuals, so you can find the user manual for your product. Then you'll see settings, and you'll search for the settings information in your user manual, and from there you'll be able to see the temperature unit, Celsius or Fahrenheit. So here's what the instructions look like for thermal imager. You'll see that in the settings menu you would go to the units section and set the temperature units. Here's what the instructions look like for the 279 multimeter. Here's where you would set the temperature units. Our next section is how to manage the team. Believe it or not, this is often the most overlooked step I observe when helping customers. We get a lot of calls to the support team saying that Joe quit the company and he was the only one with access to the software. So it's very important to take a few minutes to think about who should be on the Fluke Connect team and then add them so you still have access. Now, of course, we can always help you resolve that issue. Don't worry, just give us a call. We can get you into your account. But if there is more than one person on the team, you'll save yourself some time and headaches because you won't need to contact us. Another important item to consider is to be sure to assign each team member with the appropriate software license. So here are my Fluke Connect team members, Joe, Tammy, and Max, and here are the different license types that I've assigned them. Joe has got the Fluke Connect Assets license, Tammy's got the condition monitoring vibration license, and Max is just at the free Fluke Connect measurements level. It's important to ask yourself for the people on your team if they're a beginner, and then maybe they should start out with either measurements or the assets license only. Or if they're your power quality specialist, then maybe they get the power monitoring license. Or in the case we have here, Tammy is our vibration expert, so she gets the condition monitoring vibration license. It's also a good idea to designate more than one team administrator. This again is a frequently asked question that we get. You can have one set up as the primary and one as the backup. Just let everybody know I'm the primary administrator and Tammy's going to be the backup. The great news is that there's no limit on the number of administrators you can have. So if you need more than two, you can have more than two. You can make everyone on the team a team administrator. But unless you have a large corporate team covering several different plants, it probably isn't necessary. Two is more than enough. And you can see that this is the icon that's used in the Fluke Connect software to designate someone as a team administrator. So here we have Joe set up as the team administrator and Tammy set up as the team administrator. Finally, sharing data amongst team members. This is another frequently asked question. So let's say I took a measurement reading using my 376 FC clamp meter, but my teammate Joe cannot see my measurement readings. Well, so you call in and ask why not. This is actually by design. Joe cannot see my measurement readings and I cannot see his measurement readings because maybe we work on the same team, but we work in different plants or different territories. So I have no need to see Joe's data and he has no need to see mine. However, if I assign my measurement reading to an asset, say, motor 25, and Joe looks at motor 25, then Joe can see my readings from motor 25 on that asset. So the way a team can share data is by assigning measurement readings to assets. In our next section, resources, it's just a reminder to be sure to use the resources available to you to find help. Our websites have a ton of great information, data sheets, user manuals, white papers, how-to videos. I reference them multiple times a day, and I don't think customers realize just how much information is available there. So you go to the fluke.com main website, and like I described a few minutes ago, just go into the search bar at the top, enter your model number, 376, 1734, 1748, whatever your model number is, then click the magnifying glass or the search icon, and the software or the website will give you the product pages or the product websites for the model number that you're searching for. You click on that product website and you'll get a bunch of different tabs that have a ton of information. I usually go to the resources tab because that's where all the great information is. Now, if you have questions specifically regarding Fluke Connect condition monitoring products, or Fluke Connect tools, the best place to go for that is the Excelix Quick Start website. And you can find that by going to fluke.com/quickstart. Also, remember to search YouTube. There are a ton of helpful how-to videos out there, not just from Fluke either. Lots of our customers make terrific videos and post them to share with others. You may be among some of our customers that have shared information, and we love that. We do have a special YouTube channel for the reliability videos, but you can search all of YouTube just by entering the word Fluke and the model number to get some really good results back on some Fluke videos. But here, if you want to go specifically to the reliability YouTube channel, here's the link to that. Next, we have 2 different technical support teams available to assist. Now, this is another place where customers sometimes get confused, but that's why I'm here to explain. The Fluke Connect software support team is where you go when you need answers to questions specifically about the software and how it works with the tools. So let's say you want to know how to download a log file from your T3000 using your Fluke Connect software, or you want to know how to connect your 376 FC clamp meter to your Fluke Connect mobile app. That is when you contact the Fluke Connect software support team. The phone number for us is 425-200-0080, and the email address is flukeconnectsupport@fluke.com. It's a long email address, but it's very descriptive. Now, if you have hardware questions about the tool specifically, like how do I change it to volts, or how do I change it to amps, or what are the parameters for the highest voltage that I can detect, or I need to get my tool calibrated, or the leads on my tool have stopped working, they're not detecting amps any longer. Those are all questions that should be referred to the hardware support team. Their phone number is 800-443-5853, and their email address is simply tech.support@fluke.com. Last but not least, be sure to remember to grab your tools and go. You're ready to go with all of your Fluke Connect tips and tricks for how to optimize your system. So that concludes the presentation portion of our 17th Fluke Connect workshop. In the next day or two, you will be receiving an email thanking you for attending. It will include a link to the recording of this presentation and a link to register for our next Fluke Connect workshop. Also, at the conclusion of this session, you will be asked to provide feedback on the presentation in a very short survey. Please take a moment to do so. We read all of the comments in all of the surveys. I will be taking questions now. As a reminder, please keep questions to the topic we've just covered. And let me stop the recording, and then I will answer questions.